Crisis alert, the silence is broken. While 180,000 seniors wait to die in hospital corridors, the government continues to sink £3.5 billion into luxury migrant hotels. A political war has exploded. A leaked audit exposed £20 million in consultation theft, fueling riots that challenged the foundations of government itself. But one man stood silent. Prince William's single action just tore down the wall of political denial.
But the big challenge up there for you, is it flooding? Is it lack of rain? Is it deforestation?
Eu faço parte de uma iniciativa chamada.
Can his quiet duty reverse the collapse of the entire nation's conscience? Watch the full devastating story right now. The noise outside Parliament was horrific. "Shame it!" they screamed. It wasn't merely a protest, it was a verdict. Keir Starmer never flinched, yet the unforgiving truth echoed all around him. The people were not protesting, they were collecting a debt. In the last 6 months, 65,000 migrants have crossed the Channel, a monumental logistical challenge, consuming untold national resources. In contrast, 180,000 elderly Britons, many well into their 90s, waited over 15 hours for emergency hospital care. The priorities were a stark, cold equation, and the veterans who once guarded this country now struggle to live on less than £750 a month. Forgotten heroes fighting their last battle against utility bills and despair. On that same morning, Prince William was with them. There was no press release, no official statement, just presence. One man was chasing the headlines, the other was bearing a historic burden of duty. The divide between Westminster and the British conscience had never been wider. The stage was set not for politics, but for a Inside NHS England, the systemic failure was given a human face. It was the face of Mrs. Eleanor Vance, 96 years old, who waited an agonising 16 hours on a trolley in a drafty corridor. Her son, seeing the cold indifference, had to bring blankets from home just to cover her. This incident transformed the 180,000 waiting into an unforgivable tragedy etched in the public memory. The devastation was not limited to hospital wards. Across the heartlands of England, community anchors were vanishing. The Victory Club in Liverpool, a fortress for ex-servicemen, was forced to shut its doors when its electricity bill soared to £1,500 a month. The men inside once stood against foreign threats. Now they were collapsing under the weight of the national grid. This was the veterans' final, desperate war. The owner of the Victory Club, Sergeant Davies, received the final shutdown notice, his uniform still hanging next to the defunct bar. It laid bare the devastating reality of a £750 a month existence. The economic destruction was surgical, and yet there was a deeper wound. The crisis was not just physical. Think of the Royal Engineer in Leeds who waited 18 months for therapy. He confessed, "The war didn't break me. It was the waiting list that did." The nation's honour was bleeding out, not on a battlefield, but in the corridors of bureaucracy and the silence of government. The endless waiting lists grew longer, and the air within the NHS corridors thickened, heavy with the pungent smell of industrial disinfectant. This sterile scent was desperately deployed to mask the overwhelming reality. Inside, 210,000 people had waited over a year for treatment, pushed aside like an inconvenience. Yet even as the healthcare system choked, Downing Street executed the ultimate contract. £3.5 billion this year alone for migrant accommodation. At every financial junction, the same unforgivable choice was made. Money for strangers, but only silence for patriots. This wasn't merely poor management, it was an act of moral violence, detailed in stark reality. Consider the obscene contrast. While ex-servicemen fought eviction on £750 a month, government funds were funneled into luxury. We are talking about a 4-star hotel in Kensington costing £250 a night per room, funded by the taxpayer, a price that eclipses the monthly income of the veterans who won the very wars that secured this nation. This spending pattern made a mockery of their service. The government didn't merely forget its people, it actively defunded them. New figures confirmed the calculated cruelty. Westminster had signed off on cutting £2.5 billion from NHS budgets since spring, while simultaneously allocating that £3.5 billion to migrant hotels. The betrayal was now financially documented and undeniably cynical. This hypocrisy was rooted in neglect that ran deep, particularly in the invisible wounds of those who served. The count of ex-servicemen still awaiting essential mental health support had swelled to 35,000. The silence from the government wasn't just neglect, it was complicity in the decay of the nation's honour. The focus shifted from the squalor of the hospital wards to the unforgivable luxury being funded by the state. The bill for this betrayal was being calculated and the country was about to demand payment. The cost of this moral imbalance was now being paid in the very fabric of society. Pensioners weren't faring better than veterans. A staggering 55% of the retired admitted they had skipped meals or heating last winter. Furthermore, a grim report confirmed that the suicide rate among ex-servicemen had tragically surged by 22% since 2020. While the nation crumbled under this weight of neglect, Downing Street remained inexplicably and cruelly silent. Then the narrative fractured. At dawn, William visited a burned-out housing block. He didn't issue a statement. He simply picked up a child's melted toy from the ashes, looked at it for a quiet moment and walked on. Silence, stark, devastating. This solitary, unscripted act resonated louder than any political speech, recalling a forgotten sense of decency. Meanwhile, in Westminster, the rot was exposed. A leaked audit revealed £20 million in consultancy fees is paid for migrant housing contracts. This was not policy, it was patronage. Nurses rightfully termed it blood money. Veterans, seeing their scarce funds misused, branded it national theft. The fee was paid to firms like Integrity Solutions plc, an ironically named company receiving millions for advice, while the nation's own slept rough. The public's verdict was swift. Protesters converged on Downing Street, chanting the demand, "We fought your wars. Now fight for us." When William's car passed nearby, his single nod to the crowd was enough. The next morning, the headline affirmed, "The Prince Who Listens." The gathering was no longer a protest. It was the national reckoning. The chant, "Serve your own first," echoed across Britain. Police counted over 300,000 people in central London, yet inside the gilded cages of power, politicians dismissed the multitude as mere extremists or foreign agitators, a final arrogant insult that only intensified the outrage against the elite. The moral centre of the nation had begun to shift. The streets had become a canvas of shame and honour. Outside St Thomas's Hospital, the raw truth was codified on a large sign. £750 for those who served. £200 a night for migrants. Westminster Bridge transformed into a moving river of flags, tears and collective grief. Then, through the haze, the moment arrived. William's convoy slowed. The massive crowd fell silent. They collectively remembered what honour truly felt like. The enduring image soon flooded the nation. William walking quietly through the Veterans Ward at Royal Hospital, Chelsea. No press, no entourage, just the silent weight of presence. A soldier who had lost his leg in service attempted to salute. William gently stopped him, offering a firm handshake instead. That photograph froze everything the country had forgotten. Humility, dignity, service. Commentators universally hailed it as the picture that restored Britain's conscience. The political consequences were seismic. Polls flipped instantly. Trust in the Crown soared to 75%. Trust in Parliament plummeted below 25%. The inescapable headline confirmed the shift. William remembers as Starmer forgets. The panic in Westminster deepened as a full forecast leak showed migrant housing costs hitting £20 billion by 2030, a figure eclipsing several nations' annual defence budgets. Over 50 members of Parliament filed no confidence letters. 3 ministers resigned, citing an unresolvable moral conflict. The system was visibly collapsing. The collapse of Westminster was now complete. As the Parliament lights dimmed behind the fog, the crowd settled, singing "God Save the King." The veterans stood guard, the nurses handed out soup. The political stage was empty, overshadowed by a single photograph. Then Buckingham Palace broke its strategic silence. 15 seconds, one definitive message. The true measure of leadership is compassion without condition. Newsrooms froze. 4 senior ministers immediately cancelled their public appearances, their silence a palpable admission of guilt. Across the nation, murals appeared. William's bowed head beside the words, "Service is sacred." The final act of moral authority was projected onto the heart of the political apparatus itself. William's silhouette bathed the facade of Big Ben. Britain stands at a threshold. Veterans live on £750 a month, while 4-star migrant hotels are paid in full. Patients wait 15 hours for care, while Parliament debates statistics. Through it all, one man never raised his voice, yet the nation heard him louder than its leaders. Prince William took responsibility. History will not remember the slogans or the spin. It will remember who stood still when the country shook. Because silence, when used with purpose, can change a nation. This isn't just politics anymore. This is Britain's reckoning. Subscribe to Brit Alert News. While others hide the storm, we show it breaking. Britain stands at a crossroads. Veterans are left fighting on less than £750 a month, while luxury migrant hotels are paid in full. Patients wait 15 hours for care, while Parliament debates statistics. Through it all, one man never raised his voice, yet the nation heard him louder than its leaders. Prince William didn't take sides, he took responsibility. He reminded Britain what leadership once meant. History won't remember the slogans. It will remember who stood still when the country shook. Because silence, when used with purpose, can change a nation. Stay with us, because history isn't finished with Britain yet. Subscribe, not for noise, but for truth that still dares to speak. While others turn away from the storm, we walk straight into it. This isn't politics anymore. It's a reckoning, and it's only just begun.